Mental health through history from demons to medications. Welcome to our mental health time machine. Mental health has been a concern for centuries, but our understanding of it has come a long way. In this video, we're going to take a wild ride through history to explore how people have thought about and treated mental health. From ancient Greece to the present day, we'll uncover some bizarre stories, fascinating people, and surprising facts that have shaped our understanding of mental health today. Mental illness has been around for centuries, and the way it has been viewed and treated has varied greatly over time. In ancient Greece, mental illness was thought to be caused by the gods punishing people for their past sins. The famous physician Hippocrates believed that mental illness was caused by an imbalance of the four essential bodily fluids: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm, and he tried to fix it by making people bleed and vomit. Other treatments included herbal remedies, baths, and purges. These remedies may seem strange to us today, but they were considered cutting-edge treatments in their time. But there were also some fascinating people in ancient Greece who contributed to the understanding of mental health. For example, the philosopher Aristotle believed that mental health was related to physical health and that balance was key. He recommended a healthy diet, exercise, and fresh air to maintain mental well-being. During the Middle Ages, mental illness was seen as a sign of being possessed by demons. Patients were locked up in asylums and subjected to harsh treatment, including chaining and beating. One famous patient was King George III, who had a mental breakdown and thought he was made of glass. But the real horror show was Bedlam, an infamous asylum in London where patients were treated like animals and displayed as public entertainment. The conditions were so horrific that the word Bedlam became synonymous with chaos and madness. There was also a belief that witches could cause mental illness by casting spells. This led to the infamous witch trials, where many innocent people were accused of causing mental illness through witchcraft. Whilst the treatment of mental illness was often cruel and inhumane, some forward-thinking physicians began to advocate for a more humane approach. In the 19th century, asylums became more common and mental illness was seen as a disease that could be cured through physical interventions. Treatments included hydrotherapy, electroconvulsive therapy, and lobotomy. Lobotomies involved cutting out parts of the brain, and some famous people who had it done were Rosemary Kennedy, JFK's sister, and Frances Farmer, a Hollywood actress. While these barbaric and ineffective treatments were popular back then, there were also some people who seen mental illnesses differently. For example, the physician Philippe Pinel was a pioneer in treating mental illness with kindness and compassion. He believed that patients should be treated with dignity and respect, rather than being subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments. In the 20th century, Sigmund Freud revolutionized the field of psychology with his theories on the unconscious mind. Mental illness was no longer seen as a physical disease, but rather as a product of the individual's thoughts and emotions. Freud, who was also a cocaine addict, believed that mental illness was caused by repressed emotions and trauma, and his treatments included psychoanalysis and talk therapy. But while Freud's theories have been influential, they have also been criticized for being overly deterministic and lacking in scientific evidence. Another example of how mental health was perceived not that long ago is attitude towards PTSD. During World War II, soldiers who suffered from shell shock were often accused of cowardice and even executed. It wasn't until much later, in 1980s, that PTSD was recognized as a serious mental health condition that required treatment. Today, mental health is viewed as a complex interplay between biological, psychological, and social factors. Treatment may involve medication, therapy, or a combination of both. Some famous people who have spoken out about their mental health struggles include Demi Lovato, who has bipolar disorder, and Kanye West, who has talked about his struggles with bipolar and depression. It's inspiring to see celebrities who are open about their mental health and helping to break down the stigma. Recent times were not that modern for everyone after all. Did you know that the American Psychiatric Association considered homosexuality a mental disorder until 1973? This led to discrimination and stigmatization of the LGBTQ+ community, and it wasn't until much later that homosexuality was removed from the list of mental disorders. Let's take a closer look at some examples of the mental disorders that have been recognized throughout history and how they have been viewed and treated. One example is schizophrenia, a severe mental disorder that affects about 1% of the population. Schizophrenia was first recognized as a distinct illness in the 19th century, and at the time, it was believed to be caused by a variety of factors, including genetics, trauma, and social factors. Treatment in the early 20th century often involved institutionalization and shock therapies, but today, medications and therapy are the primary treatments for schizophrenia. Another example is depression, a mood disorder that affects millions of people worldwide. Depression has been recognized as a distinct illness since ancient times, and early treatments included herbal remedies and bloodletting. In the 20th century, psychotherapy and medications became the primary treatments for depression, and today, there are many effective treatments available. Anxiety disorders, including panic disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, are also common mental health conditions. In the past, anxiety disorders were often overlooked or dismissed as a normal part of life. Today, however, we recognize that anxiety disorders can be debilitating and require treatment. Medications and therapy are effective treatments for anxiety disorders. Eating disorders, including anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa, are another example of mental disorders that have been recognized for centuries. In the past, eating disorders were often seen as a form of vanity or weakness, but today, we understand that they are serious mental health conditions that require specialized treatment. Therapy and nutritional counseling are important parts of treating eating disorders. Throughout history, mental health has been viewed through a variety of lenses, from punishment by the gods to a medical disease to a product of the individual's thoughts and emotions. While we have made progress in terms of our understanding and treatment of mental illness, we still have a long way to go. Remember, mental health is nothing to be ashamed of, and seeking help is a sign of strength.